We appreciate you staying with us on the program. Time to put our conversations on the road this morning. First, we want to take a look at the state of security in Nigeria as it stands today. Virtually every other day, we continue to hear about killings, kidnappings, and so on and so forth. Some persons now believe that kidnap for ransom has become a system in itself, which is something that should keep us all awake at night. But whether or not that's what the case is right now, whether or not we're making necessary efforts, whether we're responding appropriately to it, especially as a government, is one of the issues we want to look at on the show this morning. Let's begin the introduction from my immediate left. I have Jarrett Tenebe. He's a politician and a public affairs commentator. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Great. And next to him is Christopher Ojekere, who is also a public affairs analyst, here to help us beat context and perspectives into the two conversations that we have on the show this morning. Chris, thank you for coming as well.
Good morning.
Chris, I want to begin with you. I mean, you and I have spent several weeks talking about insecurity in this country. We've looked at it from all levels and factors responsible and so on and so forth. Just yesterday, for instance, we were told about the death of the husband of late Professor Dora Akunyili as DG of NAFDAC. People say, well, we saw all of this coming, and if we don't nip this in the bud, it could get worse. What exactly is it that we're not dealing with? Is there some truth we're not telling ourselves about this situation?
Obviously there are, because the last I know, the Nigerian state with its full complement, that is the government and all the security forces and all the arms of government, are still complete. We still have the structure of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Nothing missing.
Nothing missing. That was the same structure we had during the Obasanjo era. That was the same structure we had during the Yaradua era. So what has gone wrong? What is different? Our military men have not undertrained or detrained from the training they have got. So what is different? What is different is that you have a government in place who is not interested, and that is putting it mildly, who is not interested in the security of the lives and property of Nigerians in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The government needs to tell us just what he's interested in. Now, if you look at just your tablets as it's running, in Lagos, there was a kidnap of an AVM retired.
Right.
Air Vice Marshal retired. Kidnapped in Lagos, and several other persons kidnapped in Lagos. There's a bank robbery in Oshu, and the casualties is the police. And all in Benue, churches have been attacked. People have been kidnapped all over Nigeria at every nook and crannies. These are the ones that are able to get to the news because they are high profile. I'm not talking of the one that happened in my area just 2 weeks ago. I'm not talking of the one that is happening right there in my next door neighbors just a few days ago. So those ones don't hit the airwaves because they are not high profile. All over Nigeria, you have a state of very tense insecurity of an existential threat nature threatening Nigerians. And you still have the full complement of government in place with the highest profile of defense investment. This government is on record to have invested more than any other government in Nigerian history, except during the Civil War, on defense and procurement. The Toscano jet we are bringing in from the US now, the US sells it selectively to nations. All of that is there. So what is happening? Why are we not solving mere armed robbery? Kidnapping has come to stay. It is accepted. It's not a norm in our society. So you get kidnapped. You saw it in the NYSC leaflet, and they are denying it, but it's right there in the brochure, where they advise their students who are traveling in certain volatile area to ensure that they have money or that they make contacts to be able to pay kidnappers when they are kidnapped. That was realistic. They shouldn't deny it. They are being realistic with the state of things as we see it on a daily basis. So there is something the government of the day, because the primary purpose of government is to protect lives and property, and that's why I'm saying the government of the day.
Again, I like the fact that you keep hammering on government. People have said that this doesn't just start and end with the federal government. That government in this country is in 3 levels. Of course, the federal, state, and the local government. Of course, in the end, we're going to talk about the local government as a structure in itself. Can we leave this all together in sincerity to the federal government alone? Can't you drag the states into all this?
We haven't left it. The governors haven't left it to the federal government alone. But there are limitations, constitutional limitations for the states. I mean, all over the states of the federation now, you have state-sponsored vigilante groups, but there's just so much they can carry. There's the level of artillery and weaponry that they can carry. And what you're having is high-profile, sophisticated, crimes, terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping that requires huge investment in technology to fight and huge investment in armory to fight. The state cannot go against the constitution to do that. You'll be the first to accuse the state of wanting to secede or wanting to create a private army. So in theory, we can blame the governors when we are angry and when we are disillusioned, but the fact is, in practice, constitutionally, the governors have to be guided by the constitution. You don't create, a state of anarchy to try and solve one. So that's why the governors are being careful. So now the citizens, what can we do? If I bring an AK-47 to your office now, I won't live here. I'll still be in the studio when I'll have the DSS waiting outside. But there are people of the Fulani stock that the president comes from who we see on a daily basis carrying AK-47 around town and in the forest. But
the president has categorically said that such persons should be shot at sight. I mean, that directive was clear.
Christopher Ojekere that should shoot them aside. In fact, from the evidence before me, they have shot more of our security forces than our security forces have shot any of them. So it's not me that will shoot aside.
I'm going to get back to you in a bit on this matter, but let me turn to Jairus quickly. Let's talk about, when people talk about concerted efforts, collaborative efforts, the state and the federal coming together from a synergy, because whether you like it or not, in the final analysis, Nigeria belongs to everybody, whether you work at the federal level or at the state level. Is there any more, realistically, that the governors should be doing at this point? We've seen the 17 southern state governors come to hold meetings from Asaba to Lagos and so on and so forth. Is that enough?
Well, you see, when you talk of insecurity,
yes,
and what is happening in the country right now, you first of all have to trace it to how it all started. One, like I will always say, somebody made this mistake that we are suffering today. And I will make bold to say this was the time when President Obasanjo was the president of this country. That's where the whole thing started from. I will always say it this way. If a soldier is trained, he's trained to kill.
Right.
And when you are trained to kill, that is all true throughout the time you are going to serve. And when you are going to leave the service, they will send you to a rehab center where you will be rehabilitated for another 6 months. From there, you will learn a trade that you are going to, when you now finally get home, what you are going to do. But there was a situation in this country where you had the head of state, General Abacha. He had a strike force. Those strike force were specially trained more than even the regular soldier. Now, when Obasanjo came to power, because of the hatred he had for General Abacha, he disbanded the strike force. They fizzled into the country. Just imagine that. They fizzled into the country. Immediately you saw the militants in the Niger Delta. After that time, the ground arms, then the Boko Haram. All during that era. What he was supposed to do was to, first of all, not disband the strike force. Take them through, if you are going to get them off the military, get them through that rehabilitation, to rehabilitate them to be useful to their various community. Because they were trained, they are professionals, they are going to carry arms. So anywhere there is problem,
Right.
they will go there, they'll be paid, they now become mercenaries. That is where it all started. When you talk of how to curb it, it is supposed to be the responsibility of the federal government, state government, and local government. But the federal government cannot do it all alone. That is why you see people clamoring for local policing. We have vigilante groups. How are they funded? I remember, let's localize it. In Edo State, we used to have local vigilantes where the government at the state give them stipends. But does that happen anymore? The governors will collect a security vote. What do they do with it? And I know in this state where local government cannot even function because they don't have the funds. Allocation will come to states, to local government. The state government will take at least 35 million from each local government, the 18 local government. If you calculate it with what the governor is taking as security vote, you'll be having about 1,330 million every day, every month. What are we doing with it? So if you take the security vote and this money you are taking from local government, you allow it to simmer down, you give money to vigilante. Look at the Atanakba in the Edo Central. The local people are funding it by themselves. Even in Edo North, they just did the launching of a security outfit last Saturday. And they donated a lot of money because they want to fend for themselves.
At the community level?
At the community level. And these are groups that the government at the local level and the state level are supposed to be funding. So when you leave this thing for only the federal government, it is difficult because, okay, in advanced countries, you will see some people, some elderly people, very old people, you see them sit, they wake up in the morning, have their shower, they will just sit in front of the house. They do more than what you see them sitting in front of their house. If they see anybody who is moving and they don't understand his movement, they will call the police to say, I am seeing XYZ person moving like this. Before you know, the police will control that person. And that is how they bust crime. So in Nigeria, you don't leave security to the federal government all alone. We are sorry to have found ourselves in this situation, which was not caused by this government now. It started from, don't look at where I'm tracing it from Obasanjo till the present day. It's getting worse. It's getting out of hand. It's something that both the state, the local government, and federal government have to come together to see the possibility of coming.
You know, people have talked about this same security vote issue, but some persons will say, look, a security vote for 1 year, if you lump it all up, for example, is still not as good as a drop in the ocean, given the magnitude of insecurity we're dealing with. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, sometime in the middle of August, somebody went on Facebook Live on the Benin-Auchi Road, the Uga axis, because it was a Sunday afternoon. They were coming to Benin from Auchi, and the person was talking about how that there had been a kidnap incident on that road. In fact, vehicles had to pull up by way of trying to avert any further attack and so on and so forth. And one would have thought that at that point, it will give us reason to say, look, there's no better time to step up our game in terms of how we react to incidents like this. But then again, if the federal government feels we can't do it all alone, is the federal government reaching out to states to say, how can we collaborate? How can we give states more latitude in terms of security? For example, the state governor here cannot give orders to the commissioner of police here. Of course, he can't do that to the AIG of Zone 5 as well. Isn't that a way of tying the hands of the state governor? Yet is the chief security officer, ironically, of the state.
No, I don't think so. I think there's that collaboration. The commissioner of police, in Edo State or in various states reports to the state governors. Not just that, you have a director of DSS
in the state,
in every state,
right?
And they have their state security meeting every other week or every other month. I don't know when they do all of that.
Yes.
What do they discuss? If there is no collaboration, there will not be such meetings. So the governor of the state, being the chief security officer of the state, have the responsibility to co-opt every other security agencies to see how to curb crime. But the point is, how will the governor speak to a commissioner of police when the commissioner of police knows that you are collecting 700 million every month, and you are not even giving anything to the police, you are not giving anything to DSS to boost whatever security that they are going to put in place. So once that happens, there is already a problem.
All right, Chris, let's talk about the issue of this call to say, look, federal government needs to declare bandits terrorists. How does that change the conversation for the better? Isn't it just a matter of nomenclature?
It is not. The reason is the nomenclature itself attracts both legal and international implications. Now, terrorism is a universal crime.
Right.
And terrorism is a crime, so to speak, the world has agreed to fight head on, you know, as a singular force. So that if it is understood and known by the world that terrorists have invaded your country, there are so many international treaties that Nigeria, for instance, are signatory to, that they can leverage on to bring in help from outside. Because of the sophistication of terrorism and the sophistication of operation, you need more sophisticated intelligence gathering, more sophisticated intelligence interventions, which will come from those international bodies to be able to help you fight. Because terrorism, as we know it, mostly is usually of a universal or regional network. So when you have terrorists in your town, most probably have far more than in your country. They most probably have far more connection with your sub-region than you would think. So if you have the name properly in place, then you deal with it with these conventions and these international treaties. So that's why it is not just a mere change of nomenclature. But if it is banditry, it remains purely an internal affairs. And you keep saying for the sake of the honor of your country's integrity, that your military will be able to deal with it, you'll soon rat them out. Your police will be able to deal with it, you'll soon rat them out. But they are there forever, and they are going because you have refused to identify what they are, and you have refused to admit what they are, and so you have refused to ask for help. And since you are not asking, no country fights terrorism alone. Not even America. You can't fight terrorism alone. You will need information from here. If you hear America operating in Afghanistan and so on and so forth, the greatest helps they have are the locals. You need information, you need intelligence and so on to be able to fight terrorism in your country. So it is not just a mere change of nomenclature. It is very important that they are properly identified.
Okay.